Hey, welcome to this next episode of YouTube where we're featuring the topic of discovering new things, and we've had a few things relatively new. This actually isn't one of them. This is Bolts and Peanut doing tug-of-war between the fence. And what is interesting, though, is, Peanut, again, using her body and including her back legs to be able to get some traction there. And again, we want to make sure that these two pups are engaging with each other, and stimulus is good. But what's interesting is Bolts gets a little spooked by the camera operator moving, and you can see that Peanut, again, tries to win that possession, and then just kind of head shakes and pulls it right through the fence before Bolts can grab it again. Of course, there's many blankets in this enclosure, so Bolts gets another one and kind of goes about his business. But the new things, I think, that are important to note, again, as the pups advance, and you will continually see them being more cognitive of things around them, whether that be movement or people or butterflies or birds, etc. Bolts got an opportunity when Peanut was outside. We have now kind of rearranged the lab so he can come in and out of the lab. So when Peanut's in her outside exercise enclosure, Bolts takes a little bit of a time here to check out life from Peanut's pen. And Peanut obviously has thicker blankets and better toys, or at least that's what it perceives to be. So he's checking that out, and definitely want to have those two have as much contact as possible. So this is Peanut outside. We again are 2 weeks post-surgery, so we're giving her a little bit more movement and a little bit more exercise, to be able to build the muscles there, and still keeping Bolts away with the exception of when they go in for programs. So you can see stitches are out. Mobility is good. She's rolling around like a pup. We want to again try to keep control of what she's doing and how active she is, but we got to give her some time to get some exercise. And so we always have a wolf care staff person in there and kind of watching her and trying to calm her down if she's too rough on herself. But for the most part, she's doing real well. The only concern that we have is sometimes she gets tired out a little bit, which is typical for pups that are kind of in recovery mode, and then she gets tired out and then she falls asleep, and it makes it difficult to get the necessary food in her. But if you can be there with food the moment she wakes up, she'll usually consume it. So the growling you hear is actually from Peanut. Again, they're just jaw sparring through the fence, and real good social interaction between the two, even though we can't allow Bolts in with her. So this is an example of Bolts showing that interest in new discoveries. Birds, coming out. This is fairly early in the morning, and logs, trashing logs, pulling bark off, dragging logs around. Just kind of new, everything new, and an opportunity to explore. And then you'll actually see them. We've had the pond. It's not a pond. It's just basically a Rubbermaid tub that we had for Grizz, and let it sit out. We've had a lot of rain, so it's filled up with some rainwater. And Bolts finally decides that maybe he wants to go into this little Rubbermaid tub. And of course, this is why we wanted to call him Bolts. This puppy just bolts around, just kind of runs around, and short spurts of energy as he's moving around the enclosure. And again, gets very excited there and starts to try to discover what's possibly in that pond. And there actually was a floating pig's ear there. So you can see him kind of gently get in. Not quite certain about getting his feet wet, and keeping his tail up pretty high. Definitely see that. We see that with adult wolves too. Sometimes they don't want to get their tail wet, but he's interesting in the way he's lifting up his feet, and just that whole kind of different sensation of having wet legs or wet feet. That's something new for him. He's not been in a pool kind of setting before, so has no problem getting out. His mobility is really good. One thing that did occur earlier, I believe it was yesterday, he was kind of laying over by Aiden, and Aiden was laying on the other side of the fence when he decided to get up, goes over and drags his dog bed across the yard, lay it in front of Aiden and Denali, and then just sleep on it. So again, is that random or is that predetermined thought? We're not really certain, but certainly was an interesting observation that we made, and he likes the comfort of the dog beds. The other new discovery that happened, Bolts managed to figure out a way to get through a gate system to go over and see Grizz. And, everything's safe over there. There's not, a couple of gates that maybe have a little bit of big gap that we had to cover, but for the most part, those are Oscar panels. Those are as good as pup panels. And I'll let you listen to them howl together. That's Grizz and Bolts. So the question is that a concern for us to let Grizz and Bolts meet? Well, obviously we want his focus to be on Aiden and Denali. Those are his future pack mates, and we're always concerned if by chance a pup is seen with other adult wolves, that maybe the adult wolves that they're going to join or the pack mates are going to possibly perceive that as, somebody else's pup and may not be as engaging. So we decided, after I watched that footage a little bit closer and I watched it in more detail, I didn't have all the footage clipped on YouTube here, but I was able to watch several different clips with Grizz, and I was more interested in Aiden's posture. And again, I saw some of that ears pricked to the side, which is usually a little bit of anxiety, and I really don't want to push that relationship. Bolts is a future pack member in the exhibit pack. Those are young 4-year-old animals that he's going to join. Grizz is an 8-year-old. I'm not saying that Grizz is not going to live for a period of time, but I don't want to introduce puppies to an older animal that may not be there during the majority of their life. And so I really wanted to make sure that distinction was made. Aiden and Denali, again, are bringing food over to the pups. Whether that be just feeding in front of them or whether they're actually bringing it to them or not is up for debate. But we are seeing a lot of deer head carrying, a lot of food being brought, again, closer to the pups, which is a good social behavior. Now, this clip was an interesting one. Denali was kind of grabbing at my coat. I was brushing him, and I had some stuff in my pocket, and he was grabbing at it. So I just pinched his lip to be able to, guard my coat and kind of keep him off. I didn't expect the reaction that I saw from Aiden. Aiden literally went after him, pinned him, chased him, and then proceeded to stand next to me the whole time and block him from coming near me. If Aiden does that kind of protection to Bolts or to, to Peanut, if she does join these two, those pups have a really good future. Meaning that there's anything, where Denali's going to push the limit or possibly give them some grief. It appears to me if Aiden guards the pups like he guards wolf care staff from any trouble from Denali, I think things are going to work very well. So, like I said, Bolts spends a fair amount of his time next to Aiden and Denali. Even though Aiden and Denali have been spending their time up in the woods a little bit lately, when we do have Bolts out next to the fence and we certainly make any kind of noise that the puppies are there, inevitably one of them comes down and kind of checks it out. Now, whether that'll go on all summer or whether as the heat of the summer progresses they decide to stay up in the upper enclosure, I'm not really sure. But for now, it's a good response for seeing adult wolves and then seeing pups. So over in Grizz's enclosure, again, the pond is something that he's been using, climbing in it. He has not swam in it, even though it's deep enough where he could do a couple of, not a lot of laps, but a couple of strokes. But it's good. It's good to keep him cool. It's so much better than that tub that now Bolts is using. The other thing, again, he continues to be very, very docile when wolf care staff come in with a coat or a jacket that smells like pups. And wolf care staff are starting to really do the grooming process to get that undercoat out, especially on his belly hair. That's where he's warmest, is that belly hair really keeps him warm. So to cool him off, right now we just kind of scratch it to try to loosen it up, and then we'll actually brush it in order to get rid of it. Howling is one of those things that does happen, and Grizz seems to be stimulated to howl the most. See, if just thought I'd give you a clip here of Grizz close up. So when you hear howling, you can kind of hear his different tone. So I'll let you listen to that. see. And in Shadow and Malik's enclosure, not a lot going on, although, they're shedding as well, and they're itching, and these guys are not as good with a brush as everybody else. Aiden, Denali, Grizz, they'll just lay there and let you groom them. Shadow and Malik are a little bit shyer when it comes to some of that basic management. They don't like fly ointment, they don't like brushes, they don't, they got a list of mile long of things that Wolf Care staff can't do to them, and so we tend to try to pluck them off and try to get them some relief from that heat and undercoat. So that's what's going on over there in retirement. Not much more to report. And again, Peanut's improving every day. We are watching that leg and making sure that we try to keep her as immobile as we can to protect her leg, but I'll give her enough exercise so that she doesn't have continued muscle decline because of immobilization or not being able to move. So that's it for YouTube. Again, thanks for watching.